It was always the belief of my movement, the labor movement. The labor movement is the movement that created the State of Israel. Our founding father, David Ben-Gurion, was the head of the labor movement. And throughout history, we believed that there should be a partition, a division of the land. And in a way, we have succeeded in our belief. Today, most of the Israelis agree that the solution is a partition of the land. And unfortunately, it was always the Palestinians who have rejected this notion. They were offered it in 1947, they were offered it in 1967, just after the war. They were offered it in 1979 when we signed peace with Egypt. They were offered it in the year 2000 when my Prime Minister Ehud Barak offered as far as one can imagine to Yasser Arafat. So this is the basic philosophy. Other movements were of the belief that we should annex the whole land, that we should include all the Palestinians there as part of Israel, and so forth and so on. The world today supports the notion of a two-state solution. 60 nations, the leaders of the world, were represented at Annapolis conference 2.5 months ago. Really a great event. However, on the ground, we have one major setback, and that is that the Palestinian entity is divided in half. One part of it, the Gaza Strip, is controlled by a fundamentalist terrorist organization, Hamas, which doesn't recognize Israel, doesn't want to abide by the international agreement signed with Israel and the Palestinians, and doesn't stop one day with terror activity. This is the problem, and we have to overcome it. And this is the reason for the friction and tension that you have seen in recent weeks. The contours of a future agreement, as Labour believes in, are based on the Clinton proposals of the year 2000, summer of 2000. And they are somewhere along the line also, I would say, agreed upon within the vision of the famous roadmap which was devised by President Bush. They call for a two-state solution, two nations living side by side, basically coming to terms on the core issues whereby Israel is the homeland of the Jews, Palestine is the homeland of the Palestinians, special arrangements in Jerusalem, and special arrangements of perhaps swap of land with relation to certain settlement blocks which are agreed basically today in the international arena would stay with Israel in return to some other land.
That's about 4%, right?
It's 4% of the disputed land.
Yeah.
These are two or three major settlement blocks, which includes about 80% of the settlers.
Yeah.
And they're mostly around Jerusalem.
Yeah. And how realistic is it for us in the outside world to think we could see some sort of meaningful progress towards that soon?
It's an excellent question, because as you see on television or in the media, constant conflict in Gaza, we are still talking to the Palestinians or trying to move on or advance on permanent status agreement with the Palestinian leadership of President Abbas and Prime Minister Fayyad. I do not know the exact status of the talks because they were halted for a while, but this is exactly our vision, that there is a moderate Palestinian partner who is our adversary, but we respect him because he presents his views, he has his beliefs, but his intention is to get to peace, to finally complete the conflict. And the conflict, whilst he is confronted by a great opposition, by a terrorist organization funded by Tehran, the Hamas, who's trying to take over all of Palestine. Had Mr. Abbas been forceful enough and strong enough to implement his control, his reign over Gaza, that should have solved the problem. He should have run the store. Unfortunately, he lost total control of Gaza. 15,000 of his soldiers lost the battle with hardly any confrontation with about 2,000 or 3,000 terrorists of Hamas. And unfortunately, without Israeli presence in the West Bank, I'm not sure he would have been able, I'm not sure Hamas wouldn't have taken over, let's put it this way, in the West Bank, and these borders are still. So it calls for him to be more forceful, to implement his legal rights. What we are doing in Gaza, we are simply protecting our citizens. We have pulled out of Gaza in the year 2005. We have uprooted our brothers and sisters, people who lived there for over 30 years. We came to them and said, please come back home. We will evacuate you. We will show the world that we are serious about peace. We will enable the Palestinians to show they can manage the store. You know, when we pulled out of Gaza, people said Gaza will become the Hong Kong of the Middle East. And ever since, on a daily basis, we are fired at from Gaza. Now what can we explain to our people? Only to say that it was, seems to have been a mistake. It's not a mistake in my mind at all when it comes to the vision of a two-state solution, but it clearly seems to be a mistake when it comes to issues of security. We've tried ceasefires.
Yeah.
We were fired at for months.
Yeah.
We kept our lips closed, and we told our people there whose houses were demolished that we are trying to see whether it can be stopped without it. Then we tried targeted activities, but it doesn't stop. It cannot be. You wouldn't have agreed, and none of you understand, because you live in a beautiful place with tranquil circumstances, what it means to get up in the morning and all day long be fired at, lose your homes, go to school and worry about your kids or about your needy in the old age under fire. Now these are tranquil places, these are farmers toiling the land, these are people going on their daily work. So we will do whatever necessary, whatever a normal country would do. We will defend our people, and if it needs to be a very aggressive, strong attack in Gaza, we will do it. So far, we've tried as much as possible not to do it.